Hi, I'm Peter Tragos, host of the Lawyer You Know podcast and YouTube channel. The saying goes, everyone hates lawyers until you need one. Well, I'm here when you need one to answer your questions and give you insight that you didn't know you needed. Along with my partners, Pete Sardis, the professor, who has a finance and business background, and George Tragos, my dad, and the consigliere, a criminal defense giant, we can answer any questions you have. What's up, everybody? Peter Tragos back with you for some more Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard. But from the jump, one of the things I want to talk about is how the show is going to run so people can know what to expect, especially people that are waiting to watch till later. And we're going to talk about how the show is going to run with every live that we're going to do during the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. And so you can know what to expect when you're watching it back later, or if you're watching live, just to keep it, so everybody's on the same page. A lot of people had a lot of suggestions, some nicer than others. But I'm a majority rule kind of guy. So I am going to kind of stick with what I think will be beneficial for the most people. So we're going to talk about that. Number two, we're going to talk about, hopefully we'll see if this is our 50,000 subscribers special live. If we can get to 50K on tonight's episode, I will be doing not one, but probably two special giveaways to people that are in the chat on the live. And if we do get to 50K during those live, I will do those two additional giveaways. Whenever we do eventually hit 50K, I am going to do a special giveaway like I did last time, where I just kind of put money on a Starbucks card for you guys to go get Starbucks on me, post a picture with it, stuff like that we did last time. We'll double the money that we did last time since this is 50K, so that'll be fun. But for something special and some added bonus, if we get to 50K tonight, I am going to do those two giveaways. And we're going to have somebody randomly chosen out of the audience. So the giveaway is going to be a mega pint from the merch store and a shirt, I think, for the merch store. We've got two pieces of merch that we're going to buy and give to two people on the live tonight, if anybody, if we hit 50K. Okay, so let's get through that quick, because I know people hate that discussion. So that's number one. Number two, how are we going to do these lives? So I've gotten a lot of requests to do breakdowns of the trial, short 10-minute breakdowns, a little bit different than kind of this long form, answering the super chats, answering all the questions. Okay, so I understand that. But these lives are a little bit different, so they do go a little bit longer. And I know they say an hour and a half, or however long they go, hour and 15 minutes. And so even though the full video will be longer, I am going to do the first part of the video, which will probably be 25 to 30 minutes, more realistically than 10 minutes, because I've got a lot of analysis to jump in. But the first, let's say 20, 25 minutes is going to be a breakdown of the trial. I'm going to go through all my notes of all the witnesses that were called today. And then after that, as long as it takes, like usually, another 45 minutes to an hour of answering questions and doing all that stuff together as a community, because that's really fun. That's why I do it. That's why you guys are here, most of you that jump in for the live. So with that being said, let's jump into today's testimony. It was a very interesting day of testimony. To me, today was the worst day for Johnny Depp. I know a lot of people are not going to be happy with me saying that, and I understand it. Okay, I understand that most people out there want Johnny to win, want justice for Johnny. I totally understand all of that. Okay, and as I've said, I came into this pretty unbiased. As the trial has gone by, I've felt myself leaning towards Johnny, really liking him as a witness, really liking him as a client, feeling like Amber Heard is probably on the wrong side of this and probably the abuser in the relationship, and that Johnny is the victim in the relationship. However, this is really important to, as we look at trials, take things in an unbiased manner, as we would hope jurors would do. And I know some people liked certain witnesses today and didn't like others. So let's get to it and let's see kind of what we thought. So over the weekend, we heard news that Amber got a new PR team. What does that tell you from our perspective as we're looking at things like that? When we think about somebody that's famous, that has a trial, that millions of people, literally millions of people are watching, goes out and gets a new PR team, that means she's losing the PR battle. That means she feels like things are turning on her from a society and a public perception. And if people don't think the court of public opinion is important, they're wrong. Because what matters to, I think, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard is what people think of them. Will they get work? Will people boycott them or cancel them? Will they be thrown into the Me Too movement? That's really important to both of them. So when we think about that being important and she gets a new PR team, that's her telling you, in my opinion, that Johnny is winning right now in the court of public opinion. So even if Amber Heard wins this battle in court, she may still lose the war. And that's something that I think is really important for a lot of people that want justice for Johnny. Realize that he could lose this trial and still get justice and still win, because money he has, money he can make more of, but clearing his name is something that I think this trial is doing. So that's really important that we get out there. Number two, she is supposed to testify, and all reports say she's supposed to testify on Wednesday, which I think makes sense because after today's day of witnesses, I hope they're not done in closing early in the morning, their case in chief. Hopefully Johnny takes the full day tomorrow, maybe rests at the end of the day Tuesday, and Amber Heard jumps on Wednesday. That would be good for our scheduling because we'll have a lot to talk about Wednesday night. Okay, so the first witness today was another security professional. Okay, we've seen a lot of them. They have similar personalities. They kind of have similar looks. This guy had a big Santa beard. Seemed like a really nice guy again. He witnessed them interacting. A lot of this testimony was similar to the other testimony. He witnessed them interacting. They argued a lot. Amber was usually the aggressor in the arguments. Now, a couple of additional facts that he brought out was that he saw Amber throw a Red Bull can and hit Johnny Depp in the back, and a closed fist punch to the face was witnessed by him from Amber Heard to Johnny Depp. So I think that that's really important additional physical abuse and evidence against Amber. Now, on cross, he was impeached a few times with his prior statements, which maybe makes it look like he's reaching a little bit, trying to help Johnny out, trying to be a good witness for Johnny, depending on what people think, because we've seen a lot of impeachment throughout this trial. But the worst part of his testimony came on cross. And I thought Rottenborn did a really good job crossing this guy, and Elaine did a good job crossing the other witnesses. And then people are calling the younger Rottenborn, whatever that other male attorney is. I don't know everybody's name on there, so I apologize if I'm getting anybody's name wrong. But I thought all three of them had really good content that came out of the cross and evidence that came out of the cross, even though I disagree with their style. And they just seem so angry, like they want to fight with the witness, okay, which is not great. So the worst thing that the security guard said on cross was that he felt like they were mutually verbally abusive to each other. And as I've said throughout the whole case, that is what I would focus on if I was Amber's lawyer. Mutual abuse, how verbal abuse can turn into and seep into physical abuse, to sexual abuse, and just tell the jury that understanding this is why Amber thinks she is a victim of abuse. Johnny Depp is a rich and powerful guy, which we'll get to if he's part of the good old boys club, basically, of the celebrity and of the actors with another witness. But that's what I would focus on, is the mutual abuse, meaning both of them abuse each other. I know Good Logic, who posted our video today on there and tagged me in it, he said, ain't no such thing as mutual abuse. That's called a fight. Only one person can be an abuser. And I think that that's probably plausible. And if there's a juror that thinks that, then maybe Johnny's in a good spot with that juror. But I don't think it's good when his witnesses admit that he verbally abused her, right? Which mutual abuse means Johnny also abused her. And if a juror is looking for something to hold on to, I think he gave them that. Now on cross, they ask these questions that they do all the time, which is straight from Amber Heard's mouth. Well, you saw Johnny push Whitney, Amber's sister, and he said, no, I never did. But they asked the question because the lawyers want to act like they're testifying. I didn't think that was a great question. And then, as always, with all of these witnesses that witness Amber being abusive towards Johnny, they say, you weren't with him every second of every day. You weren't with him here, there, everywhere, where Amber argues that Johnny was abusive to her. And of course, he says, no, I wasn't with them anywhere. Overall, I think very positive testimony for Johnny Depp today. Potentially the best witness for Johnny Depp today. Just that one snafu where he agreed that there was some mutual verbal abuse. Okay. And yeah, to me, that made me wince a little bit when I heard that. Okay. Next, let's get to John Wickham. I don't know. I'm horrible with names. I wrote finance guy from UF, law degree from UF, the manager rep for Johnny Depp, used to work for CAA. We're learning a lot about how Hollywood works, right? 10% commission is what he charged for Johnny Depp. He is a lawyer, but they also have lawyers look at the documents. We're just some background information that we're learning. Something else I wanted to mention about the questions I do at the end. You guys ask such great questions that it jogs my memory and I remember what I listened to earlier in the day. And I feel like my analysis is almost better during the question. So I encourage everybody to stick around for the questions. But and a lot of things that similar people have similar questions. So it's not that the question part is not going to have to do with the trial. It is going to have to do with the trial. It's going to dig in more. It's going to be additional analysis. These are just my notes that I wrote out as I was watching and listening to some of the trial today. Okay, I thought that he testified like everybody else did. Johnny had a cool, calm demeanor, was never abusive, was never angry, was never nasty to anybody. We figured out how much Johnny made on a lot of these films. I thought it was really good testimony for Johnny that in 2017, even after the TRO, but before the op-ed in the Washington Post, City of Lies, $8 million. I may have gotten some of these numbers wrong. I was kind of like half listening to them as I was working. City of Lies, $8 million. Murder at the Orient Express, $10 million. Fantastic Beast, $25 million. The Professor, which was an indie film, $3.5 million. And when they looked at what he made on one of the Pirates of the Caribbean, he had residual ownership over part of it. We learned about a little bit what that was, and they negotiated a price of $22.5 million. I will get to Richard Marx, guys. I'm going one at a time in order of how they were called. $22.5 million is what they negotiated and agreed upon for Pirate 6. So I thought he did a good job of explaining how he was making a lot of money. And then after that op-ed, he's doing indie films, making $1 million here, $3 million there. So a big difference. So many bad objections on leading and on hearsay again that this judge sustained. Again, very frustrating to be a lawyer where the judge is sustaining bad objections. On cross, no piece of paper agreeing to the $22.5 million, but I thought he did a really good job rehabbing that, saying a lot of times we would negotiate these things in Hollywood and it doesn't get written down till later, and the lawyers kind of handle that. But I'm representing Johnny and I'm talking to Disney or a producer or whoever, and we're coming down to the nitty gritty and we work it all out. Then the lawyers get the fine print, basically, which I thought was a good job coming back from him. Now, the most negative part of this witness, and I made a joke because this guy went to UF, and I made a joke that the worst witness for Johnny Depp, of course, was a UF grad. And that was just a joke, obviously. And then a worse witness came up later, so this wasn't actually the worst witness for them. But a really, really, really frustrating and bad part, if I'm Johnny Depp's lawyers, is Amber Heard's lawyers, in my opinion, are playing dirty pool with how much they're talking about this UK trial. So here they say, okay, well, you say it was the op-ed, but what about the UK trial? And we have to remember back to the other agent who said litigation is always bad for these movie stars and these celebrities. Litigation is always bad. What do you mean? Elaine was asking, and he explained it's just never good. So they're trying to pin the negative publicity and Johnny losing and the damages. He's losing parts, he's losing money because he sued Amber and he sued the Sun-Times in the UK. And they talk about that sometimes. They talk about, well, don't you remember this thing that was in the Sun-Times lawsuit? Don't you remember that he claimed these same damages, which is something we deal with? If somebody's got 2 accidents and 2 injuries, we have to prove which injury came from which accident. You can't claim the same exact injury from both accidents. You can't claim the same exact damages from both lawsuits, right? Because either the Sun-Times article caused you damage or Amber Heard's article caused you damage. Those 2 articles can't cause the same damage. Now, they say similar things and they do cause similar damage, and they're kind of like a line of things in a row, but who are you going to blame? And if you're pointing the finger at them, it's a good job by Elaine's lawyers to say, well, you already said it was the Sun-Times fault, so who is it? And the other guy that they sued over there, so which is it? Is it the Sun-Times fault or is it Amber Heard's fault? So I thought that was a good job by Amber Heard's lawyers to get that out, even though if I'm Johnny Depp's lawyer, I'm pounding the table, I'm jumping up, I'm objecting. I would have had a motion in limine. It seems like they already agreed not to talk about this UK trial, but they continue to talk about it. They continue to talk about how it was highly publicized. They continue to talk about the pictures and the videos and the articles that were all included in that trial. They even talked about how Johnny Depp testified for 4 days in that trial. So what I think they're trying to do is get the jury to think, is this the same lawsuit? If he lost over there, go to Google, did Johnny Depp win? And it was very obvious throughout the day that Amber Heard's lawyers tried to open the door so that they could say that Johnny Depp lost. The problem is when you have a trial and it's opened the door, meaning other evidence that would otherwise be inadmissible is now admissible because of something that came out, you can't cause that problem yourself as the opposing party that wants to get the other person to open the door, right? You can't cause them to open the door. If they open the door on their own, then you get to walk through, but you can't kick that door open yourself as the opposing party. So that's something to keep in mind as we see them continue to try to talk about this UK trial, and the judge shuts it down. And later, I have exactly what they said he could ask. It wasn't for this witness, so we'll talk about it a little bit later. But what I think Amber's lawyers want the jury to think is, this is exactly like that trial, and he lost that trial. Maybe we shouldn't let him win this trial. We don't want to do the wrong thing. The judge knows what they're doing over in the UK. Do we really want to come with a different decision? And I think that's dirty pool, because if it was res judicata, which means if the law over there and the verdict over there stood over here, we wouldn't be having this trial. But it's already been found that that is not the case. Therefore, it should not come into play in the jury's mind. It should not sway the jury, and that is a huge issue for appeal. And I would have a huge problem with that if I was Johnny Depp's lawyers. Okay, let's get to Marks, the Hollywood entertainment lawyer expert. I will tell you, I've been involved in a lot of trials. I've seen a lot of trials. And I've never seen a Hollywood expert like this. His expertise was so vague, in my opinion, that basically he was a Johnny Depp and Hollywood expert. He can come up here and say whatever he wants, which is a great expert to have. And that's why he costs $975 an hour. So I think we have a lot of people, that will come. Thank you, A Savage. I see the super sticker, which we can put on while we're talking. So we have a lot of people that will testify at trials. And when you have a resume like this, like he has, where he can name drop Sylvester Stallone, and he helped him get Rocky, Coming to America, Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, you name it, and this guy was involved with it over the last 50 years in Hollywood. Everybody on the jury is going to be eating out of the palm of his hand. It's like having a doctor down here who was a doctor for the Lightning and for the Bucks and worked with Tom Brady. They're going to be like, wow, this guy must be the best. We have to believe what he says, right? So that, to me, is setting up an expert right. And we saw multiple experts today be qualified as an expert. Now, what does that mean for anybody that doesn't know or hasn't watched a trial before? When you qualify, when the judge qualifies somebody as an expert, first off, the judge is saying they're an expert, and the jury hears that, and they're going to be like, we need to believe and listen to what this person says. Number two, they're allowed to use certain inadmissible evidence to make their opinions, such as, you may have guessed it if you listened, hearsay, right? They're allowed to listen to hearsay, look at hearsay, and use it in their opinion and testify to hearsay and get into a bunch of stuff a lot of the other witnesses were not able to get into. Talking about why Johnny lost the Disney deal, who he deals with at Disney, what it means, what they looked at, right? What they take into account. What's it like with the Me Too movement? How does it work when somebody's accused of something like this? What happens to them in Hollywood? Do you have any experience with somebody being kicked off a film? Things like that. And I thought that he did a really good job setting up his resume. He did a really good job of saying this was catastrophic for Johnny Depp's career. Much better than the other damages witness, which we'll get to later. Okay. So again, I thought that was the best part about his testimony. He also mentioned the morals clause, which maybe we'll talk about it at the end. If anybody has a question about the morals clause, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent here while we're explaining what happened in the trial and kind of giving a recap. But morals clause, always interesting in contracts. He said it's in every contract now. It didn't necessarily used to be. We could talk about that at the end if you guys want to. He used words like canceled and the Me Too movement and accused of sexual violence and things like that. He name dropped Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey and Bill Cosby, saying like Johnny Depp is thrown in with all those guys. Those are all buzzwords and buzz names for the jury and the entire public watching, right? I think that's really important to realize and understand. So let's get to the bad. I hear everybody in the chat saying this guy was so amazing, hit it out of the park, home run. He had a lot of good, but I think he had a lot of bad as well. My opinion, and here's my first question for the chat. I always do this. I want to know what you guys think. I cringed when he said things like, Hollywood puts up with a lot from the divas and drugs. Johnny was one of the boys and one of the guys, and everybody loved him and everybody wants to work with him. To me, if I'm a victim of sexual violence from somebody that's a big shot in Hollywood, when they say that, I'm going to say, you're exactly right. They do put up with a lot from divas and drugs and abuse. And you're right. Johnny is one of the good old boys who can get away with anything he wants, right? That's, if I'm Amber Heard's lawyer, that's how I'm arguing it. okay? Because that came out and that's in evidence now. I understand if you disagree with me, guys. Let's disagree politely in the chat. Bring it on and tell me why I'm wrong. That's fine. But let me know how you felt when you heard words like that. Because, I've tried some cases down south where it's the good old boys club sometimes. And if you don't look the right way and sound the right way and your voice doesn't sound the way it should, or you're not from a certain city or a certain county, it makes a difference. And I think everybody's kind of had experiences with that, right or wrong, feeling a certain type of way. So if there's somebody on the jury that felt like, and I'm not saying, I see somebody saying he didn't mean it that way. I get it. I get that he didn't mean it that way, or he may not have meant it that way. But if a juror cringes when they feel that, that's what you constantly have to be worried about as a trial lawyer, right? I agree with you, does not make him an abuser at all. I'm just saying some phrases that can be turned inappropriately, or that I wish my expert would not have said. Okay. Not like Johnny lost the trial over that at all. I'm nitpicking here a little bit. So let's move on to his cross, which I thought was really, really interesting. $975 an hour, a lot of money. I hope everybody watches this trial so nobody complains about lawyer fees anymore, right? I bet they still will complain about them, but $975 an hour is a pretty penny. Here's something that I thought was interesting, though. You're trying to say how this guy is biased toward Johnny Depp, right? And you say, or they asked him, you never have charged that much before. And he said, I've charged close to that much, but never quite this much. I said, okay. So he's charged Johnny Depp more than anybody else ever has charged, or than more than he's charged any other client. So what does that tell you? Because to me, if I hear him say, I gave Johnny Depp a deal, I charged him half price, I did it for him for free. I couldn't wait. I went and cooked him muffins, right? If you say that, then maybe I'm thinking you're biased, you're starstruck. But if you're saying Johnny Depp wants me, he's got to pay more than anybody else. To me, that doesn't make me think you're biased. That makes me think this guy's good at what he does. He deserves the money, and he charged Johnny Depp more than anybody else. So he is not biased towards Johnny Depp. If anything, he price gouged Johnny Depp, right? Which, again, not a great thing to do if you're anybody. And I'm not saying he did that. I'm sure he's worth every penny. But what I'm saying is, if that's the case, that doesn't show me that he's biased or willing to lie for Johnny Depp. Personally, you guys can feel free to disagree with me. But one of the things I thought Amber Heard's lawyers showed their lack of skill is they didn't get the total amount he's been paid. And a lot of people think, well, 975 is the sticker shock. I get that. But if I'm Amber Heard's lawyer, I'm getting the number he's been paid. I'm sure it's tens of thousands of dollars. If he reviewed every document, every depo, he already had his depo taken, and now he's testifying. This guy made a ton of money, yet they didn't even get that out of him. And I got to be honest, sometimes it's awkward and sometimes it's hard. I do this in every single one of my trials. The defense doctors get paid lots of money by the defense. And they tell me, oh, I don't keep track. I don't know how much they've paid me. And usually it's millions of dollars that they have been paid by the defense insurance company or defense team or whatever you want to be. So what we do is we get a stipulation of the parties, and we say, here's the number you've been paid, and that's what I ask. So they didn't do it. They didn't push. I would have pushed. They didn't. So they didn't get the total amount, which I thought was a miss by Amber Heard's lawyers. They read the headlines again, and this was, I thought, actually the best part of this guy's testimony is as they read the headlines, he was so good at being aloof and being like, oof, that place, you read that paper, you read that website. The UK Sun became famous by posting topless women on page 3. That was like a shot to the heart for anything they were trying to do with that UK trial. I thought he smashed that UK trial with that statement, saying that is like just basically a dirty tabloid. Like nobody goes and reads that. That's nothing. That's how they got famous, which I thought he did a great job with that. I also thought he did a great job sticking to it, saying, no, this is what hurt Johnny Depp. This is what hurt Johnny Depp. Where I thought he missed was, again, when they started talking about that UK trial, they went up to the bench, they argued, and Amber Heard's lawyer again tried to say that they opened the door. And yeah, that rag, that's what he called it. Yeah, that rag. Johnny Depp, they tried to argue that Johnny Depp opened the door. The judge said no, but he said you were allowed to ask, what was it? Approach, you can't open the door. Oh, here it was. Okay, so the expert said Johnny Depp sued the Sun-Times because he wanted to clear his name, and he was allowed to ask, and did Johnny Depp clear his name? Okay. Now, there are different interpretations of that, just like I said off the top. People are saying, now I know you're for Team Amber. Yeah, right. Obviously, you haven't watched a single other video. But anyways, did you clear your name? And he was like, blah, 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 blah. He fumbled over it and then didn't really answer. And then Amber's lawyer tried to ask it again. There was a really good objection by Johnny's team. It was sustained appropriately by the judge because it was asked and answered. And then that was it. And it was over. So that was great, is that he gave a vague enough answer, even though it was a bad answer, a vague enough answer where they couldn't dig in anymore. But I thought he went a little too far in potentially opening up that door, because they started talking about a judgment in the UK trial. They started talking about clearing Johnny's name, and you have to be really careful when it's a piece of evidence you want to keep out. Okay? All right. What else do we got here? Yeah, he started referencing the UK judgment, which wasn't great. Okay. And here's another negative for this expert. I really don't like, okay, and I really hate it if my experts ever do it as well. When they know everything when I'm asking them questions, but then when the defense lawyer starts asking him questions about certain articles or about certain things, he says, this was literally a quote, "I have a full-time job, a wife, and kids. I don't remember that." My next question would be, dude, you're making $975 an hour to be the Johnny Depp and Hollywood expert, and you're telling me you haven't read these articles? You're telling me you haven't read these depositions where they reference these articles? Because in my opinion, if you're Mr. $975 an hour, Mr. Expert, you should know this stuff. You knew everything they asked you. I would ask him questions like that, okay? And I would make him look less credible by saying, you have a job, a wife, and a kid. So was this not your job? Is this not considered your job when you're charging this man this much money to be his expert, right? A lot of you I know disagree, but that's what I would have done if I was crossing him. A lot of you are asking me, what would I do if I would cross? What would I do if I was questioning Amber? How would I cross Johnny? How would I cross Amber? So that's what I'm giving you here. It's really all I can add to the situation. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know any of these jurors. I haven't talked to any of these jurors. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. All I can tell you is what trial lawyers are thinking, what good strategy and tact is in trial, and what's not. That's basically what I got. So hopefully that's what you guys are here for. Redirect, I thought they did a good job basically saying that, you know, all those articles are rags or whatever. And then here's something that I was arguing way early on, is all that bad press for Johnny Depp, the drugs, the alcohol, showing up late, being a diva, all that bad press, right, over his whole career for 30 years. And he still got the gigs. He was still Jack Sparrow. He still made $500+ million. So I don't think the drugs and the diva and the being late ruined his career. You know what ruined his career? The lies about domestic abuse. And I thought he hammered that home on redirect, which I've been arguing this whole time. That's what I would say. I wouldn't be afraid of those headlines. I would say, you know what? Those other headlines that just want to talk bad about Johnny Depp or about drugs or telling him he's washed up, look at the $800 million he made. And it was funny. He was like, well, Pirates of the Caribbean 5 wasn't as good as the other Pirates of the Caribbean, was it? And he's like, it made $800 million, bud. And he's like, but that's not my question. My question was, it was not as good as the first 4 Pirates of the Caribbean. And he said, well, those were like the best movies ever. And I'll tell you right now, anybody would like, any producer, any company would like their flop to make $800 million worldwide. That was just a home run, in my opinion. So I thought he finished on a really high note. But then we get to Douglas Banyan. This guy was rough. So if you don't want to hear anything bad about Johnny Depp's trial or how it might be going for Johnny Depp or what might be a struggle for Johnny Depp, then you may want to close your ears and eyes here, because this guy was trouble. This is an expert that they hired. And I'm going to look at my notes here because some of this was a little bit complicated. He's a damages and IP valuation expert. And in case some of you are not familiar what valuation means, it means putting a value on things. And in case you don't know what damages are, that's how you're damaged in a lawsuit like this. So one would think that he's going to talk about the money value damage that Johnny suffered here. And he starts going into Google Analytics and search engine optimization, which I know more about than I want to, because that's a big thing with lawyers and law firms. And we have SEO people that do our website, they do Google Analytics, they do all that stuff. So, I know more about that than I want to. So I understand how it works. And this guy totally lost me with the Q score and his charts. And in his chart, it looks like it actually went up when Amber filed the TRO, and then down and then up a little bit more. And overall, he said the snapshot he took, Johnny's Q score, which basically his positive Q score, which is basically how much people like him or how good, Johnny's reputation is, went from a 31 to a 29. And after his direct, we paused, and I was on Legal Bites, and we all kind of discussed it. A lot of us were confused, but one of the big questions was, what does that mean? What does 31 to 29 mean? Can you put some value on that for us? Because a lot of us are not understanding. I don't think he did a great job defining things. And my big question on Legal Bites was, what about all the other variables? Because when you take a date and you take a Q score, that's fine. But it doesn't always correlate and cause the outcome just because you want to pick this one article. What else is happening in the world, right? What else is Johnny Depp doing? What else is Amber Heard doing? What's happening in Hollywood? What's happening in Me Too? All these different variables. And he didn't discuss a single one on direct, which led me to believe that he didn't know the answer, or the answer wasn't good for them. I'm not saying a jury would necessarily think like me. That's why we have you all in the chat, right? So I'm not necessarily saying that's what a jury's thinking. That's just what I'm thinking. And I think, how am I going to use this, or how am I going to cross this? And there was tons to cross. And I talked about it on Legal Bites. And then unfortunately, a lot of it came true when this guy got crossed by, was it Elaine? I'm getting confused at who crossed who at this point. So Johnny Depp's only suing over the op-ed, not the TRO, correct? Because it seemed like in his, Q score rating, the TRO had a worse effect than the op-ed. And and Amber's lawyers did a good job of hammering that in, because that's what we want to do. If we're Amber's lawyers, is we want to simplify it, make it about free speech, constitutionally protected speech, not make it a mudslinging thing. Okay. Number two, he isn't able to separate all the variables. Ding, ding, ding. Unfortunately, a big problem that we saw during the break that ended up coming out, the TRO, the divorce, the Sun Times trial. You can't separate the negative Q score from going up, meaning his negative rating was not as bad post op-ed, and his positive Q score only went down from 31 to 29. And then he said, "You're not able to do that, are you?" And he said, "That was not part of my analysis," meaning I wasn't hired to do that. Never a great answer. Never a great answer from an expert. Also, you have no opinion as to whether or not this makes him more or less hireable. And you're not offering an opinion as to how the op-ed impacted his reputation and his public image. And he tried to say, yes, I do kind of have an opinion on that. He was immediately impeached multiple times with his depo that was less than 2 months ago. Now, it's one thing if your depo is 4 years ago and you forget some stuff you saw at you said at your depo. But this expert's depo was less than 2 months ago, which makes me think he was a late addition by Johnny's team. I didn't think they even needed to call this guy. And they did not give him all the articles and all the data, so much so that when there was a crash in Johnny's Q score at one point, he didn't even know that it was the same month that Johnny filed this lawsuit against Amber. He didn't know that. And that might not be the expert's fault. That might be Johnny's lawyer's fault for not preparing the expert adequately. Because I know that we do this with our experts. Yes, they're paid a lot of money. Yes, they're experts. Yes, they're smarter than us in their field. Absolutely. We're not statisticians. We don't even pretend to be, right? We're not medical doctors, but we know how to prepare. That's one thing lawyers do better than just about anybody, is we know how to prepare. We take in all the information. We try to know all the pitfalls. And I don't feel like he did a very good job at all. Then when they start talking about the articles, he's like, I don't know which article you're talking about. He's like, dude, they're in your report. Like, come on. And he still said, can you show me them? Can you show me them? Can you show me them? To me, made him seem like an unprepared expert. He's also not offering an opinion as to why the Q score went up or down. Retired teacher said, no more ums. I got a lot going on, all right? It's like 8:50 at night, work the full day, trying to go through some notes. Ums are going to come up, but I'll do my best, okay? Thank you for the tip. And I mean it. My middle school teachers would probably not be too happy either. So he said he was not offering an opinion as to why it went up or down. That's tough when that's literally what your expertise is supposed to be and kind of the point as to why you're here. He also said you don't know if it's even significant that his Q score dropped 2 points. And he said, yes, I do. And then he was impeached because he literally at his depo said, no, he didn't. And his Q score actually got better overall. And he only looked at 3 samples instead of 18. Just so bad. Amber Heard's lawyers were absolutely more prepared on this witness. Okay? Hate me for the analysis if you want, and if you thought the guy did great, I understand. On redirect, almost nothing. They basically said, well, you just took a snapshot, and the snapshot said his Q score went down, right? Yes, that was redirect, basically. At the end of the day, I kind of caught a glimpse of Amber Heard's nurse, which we're going to get a lot more testimony on her tomorrow. They had to be separated in Australia. Johnny injured his finger. She knew they had problems. And I think he had 3 drinks during the visit or something. And she was saying, don't mix alcohol with medication. So that was the recap of today's trial. Okay. And hopefully you guys enjoyed that recap. And if you did, let me know in the comments. If you were here just for the recap, you can take off, but I encourage you to stick around because a lot of good stuff comes out of the questions, which I'm going to get to now. So if you have your questions, put them in the chat now. I'm going to get to as many of them as I can. I have no idea. Let me check the sub count here. Okay. If you don't like this, hit the skip button. If you're rewatching it later, because it's fun. It's fun to talk about subs. It's fun to see the stuff go up and more people join the community. It's fun. All right, so we're only at 49.1 K subscribers, so it doesn't look like we're going to get to 50K. That's slowed down a little bit over the last few days. So probably no 50K giveaways, unfortunately. If you haven't subscribed yet, there's over 3,000 people in here. Go subscribe. Tell a friend to subscribe. If we can get to 50K before I sign off tonight, which will probably be in about 45 minutes, I will give away 2 mega pints or, some piece of merch here. So if we get to 50K, we'll do a couple of additional giveaways. But either way, whenever we do hit 50K, we will do that Starbucks giveaway for everybody, like I said. All right, let's start these questions out with a Ben Rottenborn objection to hearsay. Am I the only person who thought this is Pool Life, the Google Analytics witness wasn't that bad? I don't know. Let's see what the rest of the chat thinks. Good or bad from the Google Analytics guy. Let me know why you thought he was good. Patrick Henry, thank you so much for the super sticker. How can Amber Heard listen to the media and testify? So she's not supposed to. You're not supposed to be listening to the media. She has her teams and people reporting to her. The parties are a little bit different, right? They're not sequestered because they're sitting in there listening to all of the testimony anyways. They already have read all the depositions. They've been privy to all the conversations. So they've had their depositions taken as well. So, it's a little bit different rules for the parties. But she's not supposed to be, like researching stuff on the internet. Jennifer Tucker, what are they talking about when they approach the bench? So if there's an objection, you're usually not supposed to be speaking objections and argue, Judge, this is inadmissible. This witness could be lying, or this is hearsay, or there's no foundation. This witness doesn't know what they're talking about. You're not supposed to do that in front of the jury because it could taint the jury. So you do that up at the bench outside the presence of the jury where just the judge can hear you and the lawyers that are making the arguments. John Daniels, what do you think about Amber Heard having 80 witnesses as opposed to Johnny's 40 in your experience? Does that not bode well for him? In my experience, it literally does not matter how many witnesses are on the witness list for anything. Because you can add anybody on the witness list. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to call them. Based on the fact that they only asked for 6 weeks, it makes me think that Amber actually has a smaller case in chief than Johnny because both sides have to agree on the length of the trial. So if Johnny wanted 3.5 weeks or 4 weeks and Amber wanted 8 weeks, then this trial would be 12 weeks if she really had double or twice as many witnesses or twice as big of a case as he does. So I wouldn't expect her to call more witnesses than Johnny's called, but good question. Mona L, as a juror, I'm not paying attention to the previous trial. Good. I hope that's what every jury's doing because you're really not supposed to let that stuff come in and cloud your judgment. A Savage super sticker, thank you so much. I think Amber will testify, Ann, on Wednesdays with the reports. I think either tomorrow or Wednesday she's going to take the stand. I'm finding Amber Heard's attorneys to be really rude and obnoxious. Is that coming across to the jury? I mean, Michelle, I don't know what's coming across to the jury because I'm not sitting there, but I do know jurors usually don't like that. And if they don't like the lawyer, then, you know, that can usually, because they represent the client, it can be a negative effect on the client. Gail bought a shirt and tote. Can't wait to get them. Yes, send us a picture with you in the shirt. We'll post it on our social media. That's fun. That's really fun. Glad you did. Peter, say it with me. Justice for Johnny. Hey, I want justice for all domestic abuse victims. And I do feel like after the evidence I've seen here, Johnny is a victim of domestic abuse and domestic violence. However, that's not what this trial is about and not the legal question before us. Okay, so I've got to keep that in mind in my analysis. But I agree with you. I mean, I definitely think he's the victim here. And I do hope he gets justice, whatever that means, even if it's just in the court of public opinion and it rehabilitates his career. Thanks, Carrie, for the question. Riker, will the harassment from Amber Heard's lawyers affect the jurors? So many people are asking this. And I think that you guys usually are a good representation of the jury. So if all of you are feeling this way, or I shouldn't say all of you, if a lot of you are feeling this way about Amber Heard's lawyers, then the chances are that at least some of the jurors are feeling that way. And that's how we can know that I do think it probably is having an effect. Bev, what's up? Good stuff, Peter. No one expresses loyalty like Johnny Depp's personal security team. Are they credible / good witnesses since they're with him 24/7, or will the jury see him as biased and unconvincing? So I think that's going to be a person-by-person question as to how much they think that his security team is biased. And I think that they do seem to love him, but everybody seems to love him. He does pay them, but he doesn't pay them to testify like some of the expert witnesses. He pays them to watch his back. But I think that, to me, who is going to know what's going on with Johnny Depp except for the guys that are always around him protecting him? So I think it makes sense why they're calling them. But I do think there's going to be, you know, a certain grain of salt per se with these witnesses because they do have his back. They're loyal to him. Some of them have worked for him for 20 plus years. So I think you're spot on with that. All right. Thank you, Tunkanada. I got to stop touching my beard. So many people talked about how much I was touching my beard and my face, so much so that a company reached out to me and is going to send me some beard oil. So we'll see if that helps or see if I like that. Anybody use beard oil? I've never used it before. So I'm going to give an honest review of it here to them. But I'm sure anything would help because I don't use anything on it. Bat Tech, at Lawyer You Know, why are JD's lawyers not bringing up more the fact that Amber Heard had domestic assault issues prior to her marriage with Johnny Depp? My guess would be, and I didn't read all the pretrial motions, that was kept out as a motion in limine as irrelevant to this case where we're talking about defamation, whether or not she made this up, whether or not it was a hoax. That's my guess, but I don't know why it hasn't come in because so many other things that I would argue are irrelevant have come in. This beautiful journey, end of life doula. Oh, I didn't know what a doula was until I started having kids. Thank you for the super sticker. Why do you think Elon and Franco didn't testify? I've heard there's a rule in this court that you can't force people to show up. They have to agree to it, which to me doesn't make much sense. I heard Elon was dodging the subpoena. I don't know. Maybe they weren't going to be good witnesses for whoever was going to call them. I don't know. Only one way to find out, if Elon tweets it. Rena, if the winning lawyer doesn't move to strike the successfully objected testimony, does it remain in the record? So that's a good question. The record is supposed to stop when an objection comes. We talked about whether or not you can unring a bell, meaning, so if I ask a question and you say yes, and you answer the question, that's in, but they object as you say yes. If they don't move to strike that, it's arguable as to whether or not that's an evidence. Now, I would argue no, it is not an evidence because you kept talking when you shouldn't have as a witness, and they objected and the judge sustained the objection. However, a lot of times if you object to facts not in evidence later on, it's kind of up to whoever's memory, how they remember it, whether or not it came in, right? Now, if it's moved to strike, obviously, and the judge strikes it, it's not coming into evidence. But you picked on a good nuance that different lawyers use different ways. Usually, I would say that's not in evidence, and I wouldn't use it as something in evidence because I think under the rules of evidence, the judge did not allow that person to answer the question. Therefore, that answer should never have come in. Now, if the jury hears it and the jury considers it, that's different. I'm not going to hammer it home as a piece of evidence when I don't have a good faith basis to believe that it did come in evidence. I try to go above and beyond and not get anywhere near the line because I'm not trying to go get a big verdict and then get appealed. Thank you, AB, so much for the super sticker. We got another question here from JT. I'm going to read it here. Question: do you think they need an actuary to establish financial damages? Are they done with such witnesses? I don't know if they're done with such witnesses. I don't necessarily know if they need an actuary, but that could be somebody like that can definitely testify to financial damages. I feel like it would be easier if they actually put a number on it. Maybe they're just going to rely to the 22.5 million, on him not getting Pirate 6, on those types of statements to get their damages in this case. Maybe they're not going to tie it all kind of back up. That's what I was hoping for with that Google Analytics witness, if I'm being honest. Which sometimes jurors have expectations when a witness comes up as to what that witness is going to testify to, and that could affect how they feel that witness did, which could be, my problem there. Alicia, I screenshotted and read the nurse notes. Seems like pretty substantial info / credible witnesses. No, I'm KD's favor, even with the photos. I don't know what I'm KD's favor. If I had to guess, I would say in JD's favor. In those screenshot notes, even with the photos. I think we're going to dig into this evidence and testimony a lot more tomorrow. So maybe we'll get more of that tomorrow. Tunkanada, can Amber Heard claim ambassador position and article was consideration for her missed pledged payments? No, not how nonprofits work. No, I don't think she's going to claim that. I think that would just blow up in her face. Patrick Henry, can JD's lawyers ask Amber Heard who she was talking about in the op-ed? Absolutely. That's like the first question I would ask. And wouldn't that be a violation of their divorce agreement if she says that it was? It could be a violation of their NDA. That would be something separate. I think that it's pretty clear she violated their NDA at this point, although I haven't read the NDA, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But it seems like based on what people are saying about it, that she did violate the NDA. So we'll see. But that's absolutely the first question I would ask because it's on the jury form, on the verdict form that the jury's going to have to fill out. It's what were the statements made about the plaintiff? And you can have her answer that on the stand. So good catch there, Patrick. Sarah Shamlin, I know you said it, but how would you cross Amber Heard now? So I'd start with that question. I would really hit on the op-ed, make sure she was talking about Johnny. I would get her to say it all again on the stand. Yes, I said he was abusive. Yes, blah, blah, blah. Then I would ask her to get as specific as possible about each incident because it's going to contradict a ton of people and a ton of evidence that's already come in. I would be taking notes every time Amber's lawyers ask questions to witnesses where the witnesses are like, no, that didn't happen, or nobody said that, because that's most likely coming from Amber. I'd circle back around to that. I would ask her, or I would tell her, because you can tell people things in cross, that Johnny's career was affected by this. He lost money. You were there. You saw how it affected him. You also saw how successful his career was, and he was doing drugs and drinking back then, right? Those kinds of questions just to kind of go towards damages. And then I would try to get under her skin a little bit about how she loves the publicity. She's a narcissist. She wants to be in the public eye. She wants everybody to like her. She wants people to praise her. And once it was over for Johnny, which was her most famous part of life, basically she peaked with Johnny. I would ask questions like that, like, you peaked with Johnny. That's why you did all these things like that, which, it's different styles. And I think you can still do it in a nice way without being disrespectful. But that's what I would say, and see how she holds herself together and make her give as many details as possible. Because in my experience, when I feel like somebody's lying, the more detail you ask for, the more they get themselves into trouble. And obviously, if I was fully preparing for this case, I'd have a lot to cross her on. Jessica, what is the possibility that no one wins any money? I think that's a real possibility. I think it's less than 50-50, though, if I had to say. I thought analytics, this is Kangi Cosmos. I thought analytics was good because it does show that Disney still stuck with Johnny, even with the drugs and drinking and tardiness, when Amber Heard's team says that's why Disney dropped him. So Kangi Cosmos, I'm glad you put this in there. Love the opinion. I didn't get that at all from that expert. But there's different people and personalities on the jury, so maybe somebody did catch it the way you did, which is why I like these comments. Do you think the attorneys in this case are listening to you and others? No, I don't think anybody's listening to me, if I had to guess. Why no badgering the witness, Susie? That's a pretty high bar. Nothing they're really doing is badgering the witness. If anything, Rottenborn with Johnny on the stand potentially could have been objected to badgering. But then again, Johnny could have been badgering Rottenborn because he got some good shots in there too. But even though they are being a little bit rude or aggressive, nothing's really rise to the level of badgering a witness. If Amber loses, what would she have to pay for court costs? She could have to pay for court costs and attorney's fees depending on what happens pre-trial or what's decided at the end of the case. Why is Amber Heard taking notes to distract her? Sometimes, I mean, think about it, for 6 weeks sitting in court when you're usually like a creative person or an actor or a musician, it's pretty tough. Johnny Depp's doodling too. I wouldn't, hold anything against them for the notes they're taking or whatever they're doodling while they're listening, personally. Tyler and Dobby, can the judge add criminal charges to Amber for domestic abuse? No, the judge cannot add criminal charges. That has to be the state attorney's office, law enforcement, to do something like that. Michelle Roberts, where do I send my pic wearing my new merch? I love my lawyer, T, at Tragos Law, which I think if I get your comment off, you can see it. Yes, right here at the bottom of the screen, at Tragos Law on Instagram. Tag us there, follow us on Instagram too, so we can reshare it, repost it. Anybody wearing our merch, that'll be fun. Does anyone notice how Amber's cheeks always look swollen? Her makeup is just horrible. Her makeup job is horrible. Way Brenda, very interesting, because that's been a big thing in this case. And whether or not, her having rosy cheeks is from abuse or from Botox and the bruising from Botox people are talking about. I don't know if we're going to get a Botox expert or a makeup expert, but there's been a lot of talk about her makeup. So it's interesting. You think she does a horrible job and you think she even looks a little swollen in court, because if there are any people on the jury that feel the same way as you, maybe they're thinking she kind of always looks like that. Maybe this doesn't really have anything to do with abuse. Good point. Good observation. Max Sauce, hi. Wondering why videos of Johnny are allowed in if they're taken legally. California's a two-party state. We've talked about this a bunch. I have no idea why they're being let in. They obviously argued this. I think Johnny's lawyers obviously tried to keep it out, but the judge let it in. And one of the reasons maybe, TMZ already posted this. So whether it was taken illegally by Amber or not, there are legal ways to get that video. And that sometimes can open up the availability for it to be used at trial. But I came into this case trying to be like a juror, trying to wipe my mind clean, not know what happened pre-trial, not know what happened in the UK trial. I mean, I know he lost, obviously, because, it's impossible not to know that now at this point for me. But I really tried to come in as unbiased and look at this straight from the beginning without knowing anything besides, I know Johnny Depp's been in a bunch of movies and I know Amber Heard's been in Aquaman. Do you think the attorneys in this case are listening to you and others? Susso. Oh, this didn't pop up. Susso, do you think they're listening to you and others? I mean, got enough questions about it that maybe I think they definitely have somebody as part of the team that's doing this kind of research, watching YouTube, looking at Twitter, looking at Instagram, seeing what's happening, seeing Johnny get all these followers, seeing the justice for Johnny, maybe seeing what Jason Momoa or people like that are. I don't really think anybody's listening to me personally, but if they are, hello, thanks for watching. Hit the like button. Rottenborn, Elaine, Chew, subscribe if you haven't already, boys and girls. LB, if a lawyer is mid-questioning a witness, can they ask to confer with their team? Love your channel, new subscriber as of today. Thank you, LB. Yes, they absolutely can. You can ask for a moment to confer with counsel, Your Honor. If you see a couple times I pointed out on Legal Bites, Ben Chu will be like, objection asked and answered, objection asked and answered, to the younger female blonde lawyer behind him. And one of the times he lost, he was like, sorry. It was pretty funny to see how they're helping their younger lawyers. I got to be honest, Johnny's team seems pretty calm, cool, collected, which is exactly how I like for a trial lawyer team to look, and they really do. Cheryl, how do you feel about the expert testimony today? Hopefully you were here for the beginning. A lot of these questions are coming in afterwards. I felt like it was not the strongest day for Johnny. I do think that Marks, I think his name was the entertainment law Hollywood expert lawyer, did a good job of explaining cancel culture, Me Too movement, how it affects careers, how it's crushed Johnny. I do think Cross, they got some good shots in, but I thought he did a good enough job. Google Analytics guy did nothing positive and only negative, but even as negative as I think he was, he didn't lose the case for Johnny. I don't think it was, some insurmountable deficit that he created for Johnny. I really don't. So while I don't think they were particularly strong today, I don't think it killed the case for Johnny. Deborah B. Did Johnny's lawyers point out that had Johnny struck Amber, where are the marks from his rings? Where are the cuts? So Deborah B., you are no less than 20 people have asked me this question on the channel. And I agree with you. I think that's something that would come up. I thought it would come up more with Johnny. Like, you always wear these rings. If you hit her, would it leave a mark or whatever, things like that. Maybe they'll ask Amber. I don't know. I think one of Johnny's like security guys or friends said, with all those rings, you would see it. I think that has come out a little bit already, but I don't know if there will be more emphasis put on it. Bat Tech. That Hollywood expert's best line was when he asked Amber Heard's lawyer if she had a second husband in response to him asking if JD's name was in the op-ed. Yeah, he's like, who else would she be talking about? 2 years ago, was she married to somebody else? Did she accuse somebody else of domestic violence? Yeah, that was a good job by him. Which is my point, is why he knew all that stuff, but some of the questions on cross, he's like, I have a family. I couldn't possibly know all that. Patrick, you're doing an incredible job. Have to go. Tune in next time, lawyer. I noted your firm may call in a litigation case. Interesting. Yeah, check us out. TragosLaw.com is our website. Oh, Dallas Cardona. Thank you for the super sticker. Savage is back. Question. Yes, Amber Heard doesn't have any money, but can the jury award more $4 to Johnny Depp than the original amount requested, $50 million, tried to ask before? So yes, the jury is not limited to what Johnny Depp asks. The jury is limited to a reasonable verdict. So they can give 100 million, they can give $1 billion. And if it's unreasonable and the judge finds that it's unreasonable, the judge can bring that number down to 50 million or whatever the judge feels is more reasonable. The jury can also give $1 if they feel like that's more appropriate. Which lawyer is your favorite from each team? I really thought Ben, is that his first name? Chu did a good job today. I thought he did a really good job today. I didn't love his opening as much. And I think Rottenborn has had some good moments. I do. And I also think it's kind of hard to find a lawyer, I think, that is really likable on Amber Heard's team. But I think Rottenborn has had the most success from Amber Heard's team. And I think Chu, and then I actually have liked the younger lawyers. I like the younger male lawyer, generic white guy, we'll call him, since that's, a quote from this trial. I thought he did a good job. And I also thought the younger blonde girl did a good job. And I also thought I actually have really liked different parts of every single one of Johnny Depp's lawyers. I haven't thought a single one of them has really like hit it out of the park where they're leaps and bounds above everybody else. But now that I'm thinking through it, the different lawyers I really thought have showed some skill in different parts that they've done. Odetta Garcia. Odetta's back. I feel as you do concerning today's testimony. There were a great deal of objections by Amber Heard's attorneys that would have shown defamation that the judge sustained. I agree with you. And I'm glad you're with me. Does the jury choose the damages? Is this civil case or is it criminal? They choose the damages in civil cases, not in criminal. So here they will choose the damages. Sounds like you would have been perfect on this case, Kathy. Thank you. I've had a lot of people call me about defamation cases since I started breaking this down. We do want to be a resource out there to help people. We focus on car accident, med mal cases, nursing home negligence cases, injury cases, catastrophic cases, wrongful death. Very few and far between defamation cases we would take. They're very difficult, and I hate, to reject people or tell them why I don't think they have a great case, but, I'm having to do it a lot here. So just, if you call about something like that, be on the lookout. That's probably what the response will be, but I'm happy to talk to you. I try to donate as much of my time as I can. Really busy for the next 2 weeks, so it's going to be tough. Flying Rectum. Question, if Amber Heard loses, will she go to jail? No. This is not a criminal case. Lori, how important was the eyewitness testimony of the punch to Johnny? I think it's huge. It doesn't prove that there wasn't defamation, but I think it's huge because, once again, I have felt like the evidence has proved beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a much higher burden than they have here, that Johnny is the victim of Amber's abuse. I don't think they have quite proven that she lied, that she never felt like an abuse victim, because that's really how I would attack it as Amber Heard's lawyer to try to win this defamation case. Is she felt like, in her opinion, she was a victim of this abuse. Thank you, Fluffy Majestic. And while this is up here, I'll read another question. Why are there so many lawyers on each lawyer team? 6-week trial. Sometimes you want to involve a lot of lawyers. The last 6-week trial I did actually was only 5 weeks. It was just me and my dad. So that was pretty crazy. But yeah, lots of lawyers. Each one of them can kind of take different witnesses. It's also good experience. I think Chu is showing he's a nice guy, letting a lot of baby lawyers come on this. I don't like the term baby lawyers. A lot of people use that. Younger lawyers or less experienced lawyers, because they're going to have this on their resume forever. They were on a nationally televised trial. They were on a high-profile trial. They got to question witnesses, cross witnesses, make their objections, argue to the court. And I think it's awesome, great experience. And I think he did a good job, because you give a good lawyer one witness to focus on, and maybe they'll do better than if you have all these other lawyers. Now, usually you want the most skilled or best lawyer you have doing each thing, but I thought it was good to have a mix and let the young lawyers get involved as well. Industry Rajan, you're back. Hey, I'm joining the chat late. In your opinion, who won the day? Was the Google guy damaging? Yes, he was damaging. Was mutually verbally abusive comment damaging? Yes. So, hey, you've been here before. I remember your name. I recognize the face, and you just basically quoted things I said earlier in the video. So if you have a chance to go back and watch, I encourage you to, because you'll hear me break down exactly this. And yes, I do think this was the worst day of the trial so far with Johnny. I'm glad they didn't finish their case in chief today and finish and end on a bad note. Hopefully they've got a witness in their pocket. A lot of times you'll save a witness you know is going to be good till last. Hopefully they've done that. Maybe it's this nurse. We'll see. Thank you for the question, and you're spot on. JJ Doe, if Amber Heard were to lose the case, what are the odds of her winning an appeal? Can she have several appeals, or is there a limit? You can have several issues on appeal. Usually they'll limit the page numbers, which is interesting. So you have to either, say it short and sweet or only pick. Usually the best thing on appeal is pick your best one or two or maybe three arguments, put them in the appeal. You don't want to give the judges 100 things to look at. They're just going to kind of cross it off. You also won't be able to do it in the page limit. If I don't see anything from her side that really makes me think she's got a great argument for an appeal. I think the UK trial is the best argument Johnny Depp's team will have for an appeal if they lose. Sarah Shamlin, who can Amber Heard bring as witnesses that won't seem biased? JD brought in POs, nurses, etc. Won't it look suspicious if her witnesses don't match unbiased? I mean, I don't want to say that you might lean a little Johnny's side. I'm going to guess that, but a lot of his witnesses, like his friends, his family, people on the payroll, can also be seen as biased. But I agree with you absolutely, and I've said it multiple times, that he also had unbiased witnesses. So I think that she is going to have some biased witnesses. She's going to have some friends, some family members, some eyewitnesses that saw this stuff happen, or are going to say they saw this stuff happen. So we'll see though if she has any doctors. I think she is going to have doctors. I think she's going to have experts. I don't know if she's going to have any law enforcement officers. We'll see. I think this question is going to be answered over the next couple of weeks when we see which witnesses she calls. Michelle Caudill. You said earlier in the live you saw a witness list for the case. Who all's on Amber Heard's witness list? I didn't read through the entire witness list. I saw that there were 80 people on it, or it's been reported that there are 80 people on it and 40 people on Johnny Depp's. So I didn't read the whole thing again. I don't want to. I don't want to cloud my judgment or how I look at the case based on that. How common are recall witnesses? Great question. If you may use them again, out of an abundance of caution, you always want to keep them on the recall list. It is, I would say, fairly uncommon. Which is how kind of you're seeing it in the trial. Like 1 out of every 5 witnesses is being subject to recall. Thank you, Dowdo Lover, maybe. John Daniels. If I was a juror, the biggest thing that would have stuck out to me during the analyst testimony is how much Depp's popularity plummeted after AH's initial charge. To me, it and the op-ed are the same. Then you would be a juror that doesn't necessarily follow the law in this case, because the initial charge or the TRO, I think, is what you're talking about. Even if you did see it as plummeting, which some people can disagree whether or not that's what it showed, that's fine if that's how you read the evidence, but they are not one and the same, and Johnny Depp did not bring this case based on the TRO. So that would be tough, but I'm sure there are jurors that think like this, so I appreciate the comment. Torifile 74. Do you think Amber Heard's team lost points with the jury after the whole penis questioning, among other things? It was such in bad taste, and JD's response was legendary. Love you. I'm new to your channel, but glad to be here. Thank you. I'm glad you're here as well. Absolutely. I think those kinds of questions are so obviously you're trying to sling the mud and make this airing out your dirty laundry. Let's just make this look like a circus. I'm not a big fan of stuff like that. Now, if it's necessary, I probably would have had to talk about the poop in the bed just to show what lengths she would go to do stuff like this. But yeah, those questions weren't great. Humbled Potato. Sorry if this was already asked. Did you see the rumors that Amber Heard's team may file a motion to toss the case tomorrow? I did not know that. Now, if you're saying they're filing a separate motion to toss the case, or when Johnny closes his case in chief, they may just ask for a directed verdict for the case to be thrown out because there's not enough evidence that any juror could possibly find in favor of Johnny Depp. That happens in every case, and it loses 99.99999% of the time. So we'll see. But again, as somebody who's trying to stay like an unbiased juror, they wouldn't know about that. So let's try to focus on what the evidence is. I would be surprised, though, if this happened, unless it's just their normal mid-trial motions, we call them. Beverly Alford, about 30 minutes ago on Twitter, Colonel Kurtz, who's been on Legal Bites, tweeted, "I'm stunned that Amber Heard has confirmed that she is, in fact, mimicking Johnny Depp's look. I once believed she wouldn't do something that stupid and bizarre. Wow." That is really shocking that she would admit it, especially because jurors and witnesses could potentially go and look this up and find this out. It is very weird, and it really solidifies the BPD, borderline personality disorder, I think, as the doctor explained it. Not a great look. That is really surprising. Marlene Brown, question, who will give closing arguments first? The plaintiff has the burden, so they get to go first, and then they get to do rebuttal, so they get to go last as well, and Amber Heard's team will go in the middle. Nancy Adler, I know this is off topic. What is your favorite part of being a lawyer? I love negotiating. I love leverage. I love, the poker of it. I love playing the man. I love being able to kind of carry the hammer at the end too. If we don't get to where I want to get in negotiations, we have trial. We have the even playing field in court in front of a jury. I like convincing people of things. I like helping people that are hurt and that are victims and don't know how to help themselves. That's specifically, so a lot of those things are generally about being a lawyer. That is more about personal injury and catastrophic injury and wrongful death, is helping these people that are spiraling sometimes because of factors that are outside of their control or something somebody else did to them, either on accident or on purpose. That's really what I love most about it. And that's why I'll never stop doing it, YouTube or not. I love it. Heather Farber, is it the judge's responsibility to focus the jury on the legal definition of defamation? How does that education of the jury work? The judge will give instructions. The judge will tell them what the law is. So yes, they tell them that, but it's up to the lawyers to hammer it home. Make sure they're paying attention. Make sure they know how important it is. That's the lawyer's job. Thank you, Cole Stack, for the super sticker. Grant asked, why are some witnesses subject to recall and not others? If you think you may use them on rebuttal, or if you think they may impeach Amber Heard or one of her witnesses, you don't want to release them because then they're not subject to the rule of sequestration and you can't call them again, so you lose that ability. So if you think there's even a chance you may recall them, you keep them subject to recall, but only the witnesses that you might use in rebuttal. Humboldt Potato. Apparently, they may try before the jury enters the room and plead their case with the judge. I don't think they're going to be successful unless something has happened that I don't know. I really don't think they're going to be successful even if they do try to do that. Michelle Curl, what consequences, if any, are there if a witness is caught lying? Now, there's supposed to be consequences of perjury, which carry with it jail time, and it is a criminal sentence and a felony. But a lot of times nothing happens when people lie on the stand in civil trials. So it's pretty tough. But there should be criminal ramifications. How strict do you think people are with the no contact outside, no following the trial? We hammer it home. The judge hammers it home. I hope they're very strict, but in today's day and age, I find that hard to believe. Shauna Lee, what is your opinion of Johnny's chances of winning, percentage-wise, like 50% more or less? I would say more than 50% right now. But we haven't heard Amber's case in chief. I would not say 90% or anything like that. Why does the judge have to wait for an objection if she already noticed that it would be a hearsay, for example? Sometimes judges can jump in and not let inadmissible evidence in, but it's the lawyer's job, so usually they'll wait for the lawyers to do that. Or maybe the other lawyer is going to let them step in it. So if like I'm sitting there and the other side's asking a hearsay question that I think the answer is going to be good for me, maybe I'll just let them say it. So there's some strategy to that. Lizzie, what is rebuttal? A rebuttal is kind of like a response. So you get to have a rebuttal case, meaning you get to put on your case as the plaintiff. Then the defense puts on their case. And then because you have the burden, you have the rebuttal and the opportunity to rebut or come back and respond to their case. Same thing in closing arguments. You go first with your closing argument if you're the plaintiff, then the defense goes, and then you have the opportunity to rebut. So you have your rebuttal at the end. It's a response. Mila, when she perjures herself on the stand, can she go to jail for it? Theoretically, but you have to prove she was lying, right? And you have to have that backing from law enforcement to do that, which is what I don't expect. Michaela, new subscriber, do you feel like a single moment in the trial has been more important, or the collective testimonies, or the witnesses? To me, still, by far, most important part of this trial was Johnny Depp's testimony. The next most important part of the trial is going to be Amber Heard's testimony. In a case like this, I think it's going to come down to the parties, where the law is kind of gray and difficult for some people to understand. Sometimes it comes down to who the jury likes more, which is why I think the two parties and their testimonies will be most important. How does the countersuit work? If Depp loses, does it mean she will automatically get $100 million, or will there be another trial? No, in the same trial, she has to take this time and also prove her case and prove those damages. So just like Johnny Depp is trying to prove the $50 million, she has to prove the $100 million, but she'll do that more in her case in chief, not in his case in chief, which is coming next. Becky, how does a public relations company have any effect on the outcome of a trial? It really shouldn't, but what they can have an outcome on is how the public is viewing how the trial is going. So I think that's more what they're focused on, is trying to make all of us think, oh, it's going great for Amber Heard. She's proving Johnny Depp's an abuser. Johnny Depp is a crazy drug addict, alcoholic, abuser. That's what she's trying. Her PR team's probably trying to push out there. They're trying to control the narrative in the media, not necessarily affecting the jury or the jury's verdict. That would be unethical, actually, if they were trying to affect the jury or their verdict. Angela Carnazzo, thank you very much. Interesting. Jennifer said, barely saw Amber Heard today. I agree with you. She fired her PR team. Can they control that? So no, I wouldn't think they can control that, but they can probably reach out to some of the streaming stations and see what they can do to not show her so much. That's an interesting point. I didn't even think about it, but you're right. All right, got about 5 more minutes here, and then I'm going to take off here right around 9:30 Eastern time. Joy, what are some key witnesses or evidence that you think would be a great advantage for Amber Heard? I think she needs to be a big witness for her. I think a mental health expert is going to be an important witness for her. I think her sister Whitney, and maybe I think their friend Rocky, who's been mentioned a million times, from Isaac and other people. We basically know they've been around a ton, and we've also heard by one of the questions in cross-examination that Johnny is also being accused of pushing Whitney, not just abusing Amber. So I think those are going to be some of the key witnesses for Amber. April, quarantine trauma therapist. How can he have a chance at winning if they have to prove she deliberately lied? BPD believes they are telling the truth. Of course, she believes she's the victim. So I don't necessarily think that Cox's testimony said she believes what she said was the truth. I think it's more if she's a narcissist, she plays this stuff up, she blames the victim, more things like that. I don't think that they've done, like, she's insane or mentally incompetent, meaning she doesn't understand the consequences or what she's saying. I don't feel like that's at all what that diagnosis was. But I do think it's hard to prove that somebody deliberately lied as opposed to had an opinion that you disagree with. RX, in her counterclaim, does Amber Heard become the plaintiff, and does that mean she will be sitting next to the jury? No. So that's why you do them in one case, because a counterclaim has to be indispensably attached to this complaint. So she couldn't wait and then file her counterclaim separately. If she was going to have a counterclaim based on these facts, she had to file it along with this complaint. So that's what she did. And the counterclaim plaintiff is Amber Heard. The counterclaim defendant is Johnny Depp. However, she still sits as the defendant in the overall main case. So I know it's kind of confusing. So she does have the burden on the counterclaim, but she does not get the benefit of having rebuttal and getting to go twice and things like that. Sarah Shamlin. And by the way, The reason for that is judicial economy. We don't want to have to retry this case again. Didn't it come out that Whitney actually said it was the opposite of what Amber Heard said, and Amber Heard was threatening her and Johnny Depp stepped in? I don't know. I haven't heard that yet, but I'm hoping that we hear something on that from Whitney herself when she takes the stand. Tiffany Delano. Off topic, Conrad Roy Michelle Carter case. High level thoughts. The one where he was committing suicide, left the truck. She told him to get back in. Oh, this is the texting case where they made that documentary. I will just tell you, I think what she did was horrible, deplorable, immoral, unethical. I was shocked she got convicted. Shocked. This takes kind of bullying, I think, to a whole new level, that you can be convicted of murder and suicides. I think that that's kind of where this leads in bullying, and some people may not have a problem with that, but some young people are growing up and have a lot of growing up to do, and they can't control the environment they were brought up in. And if they become a bully, not that that's an excuse, but we should work with and try to help people not act like that, not necessarily convict them for, certain suicides and things like that. So it makes me kind of nervous about where the law is going there. I think it's something we're going to have to talk through. And when we write these laws and how these things go in the future, hopefully this is the case you're talking about, because I don't know the name of that case, but this is, now that I'm reading this question again, it's maybe a totally separate case. If it is, I don't know which case you're talking about. So hopefully that answered your question. Mona, do you think Amber Heard's lawyers purposely asked Marks who won in the UK trial so a juror would look it up? They didn't ask who won. They asked, did Johnny clear his name? And I absolutely think they keep mentioning this UK trial in hopes that a juror will go look it up, find out that a judge decided against Johnny Depp. And that's important that it was a judge. A lot of you are saying the judge is biased, and that's fine. I don't know. I don't know what happened in that case. I don't know that judge. But if a jury sees that a legal expert or a judge decided against Johnny Depp, I do think it could potentially sway them. Does the jury have to reach a unanimous decision? The answer to that is yes. All right. I think that is the last one. So help me get to 50K. Tell your friends about it. We only got like another 100 subscribers from this video, so not quite as many as we hoped for, to do a couple giveaways. But Ashanti, please check out the beginning of the video. I went into depth on this, about what I thought about this, and I had a lot of thoughts. So please check out earlier in the video if you have a moment. So thank you, everybody that was able to join this live. We'll be doing it again all week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, around 8:15 or 8:30. We're going to be doing lives, and then Friday during the day, we're going to dive in, dissect the whole week, talk about Amber Heard's testimony if that comes. If that comes this week, which hopefully it does, we will get into that. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't already. Get this up to a couple thousand likes. Let me know your comments and your questions in the comment if you like this format, if you liked it better, how it was kind of just a little more all over the place answering questions as I discussed what was happening in the case. Let me know all that in the comments, because I do take that stuff seriously. And if a majority of people like a certain thing, I'm going to do it. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Melistasi, I see you in here, the OG. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. This was fun, but I'm out of here.